Introduction and disclaimer. Let's get a disclaimer out of the way first. This is not an official Renishaw repair. I don't endorse doing this, and I take zero responsibility for any damage to your probe, your spindle, or your machine if you try it. I'm simply sharing my personal experience keeping a very expensive piece of equipment running when we needed to. Now, if you call Renishaw, they won't sell you just the glass. They do offer an official refurbishment program for a fraction of the cost of a brand new probe, which is great. But for a small shop like ours, that bill is still a tough pill to swallow, and more importantly, the downtime waiting for a replacement. We needed this machine back, making chips immediately. I forgot to film the disassembly process, so for this video, we'll be working backward from where I am. The only major thing to note on teardown is that the second set of bolts you encounter are locked down relatively tight. Take your time and use quality tools so you don't strip the heads. Housing preparation and internal glass fit. My probe actually had some significant damage to the thin outer metal ring that contains the glass. Before filming, I had to very gently form that metal back into place so everything would sit correctly. It doesn't have to be visually perfect. The replacement glass actually has a bit of clearance around the ring, so if it isn't binding or pinching, you're fine. You can find nearly every component for these probes online, including the electronics. I've left a link in the description to the exact glass I bought for this project. I was honestly impressed by the clarity and how smooth the cut edges were. Gasket seating and electronics reassembly. First, we seat the internal gasket that the glass seals against. Make sure both the metal surface and the seal itself are surgically clean. If a piece of grit or lint gets in here, pressurized coolant will find its way past and you'll ruin the electronics. Speaking of electronics, avoid touching the boards directly if you can. Next, drop the glass into its location. Double check that it isn't resting on any of those dented or damaged sections of the outer ring. Now, when you install the electronics, be incredibly careful not to drop the small brass pins in the white plastic housing. They are very small and will vanish into thin air if they fall. There are small alignment dowels to guide you. As you lower it, you need to align those tiny brass pins with the small circular copper pads on the bottom board. It's tricky and a bit fiddly, so be gentle and take your time. Once it's securely seated, begin tightening the housing screws. Because there are no official manuals for a DIY teardown, I don't know the factory torque specs. I'm just hand tightening them with minimal leverage right on the bend of the Allen key. They seem to have a natural self-locking effect against the plastic housing they're holding down, so don't crank on them. Pivot plate and retaining cover. Next up is the pivoting plate. You need to ensure the spring is fully seated on the center metal pin and perfectly nested into the embossed part on the plate itself. Apologies for the slightly awkward camera work right here. I only had a single take to get this done because we wanted this probe back in the spindle. Now we install the cover that holds the internal assembly together. It locates onto a small plastic boss. When I took this apart, the screws holding this cover weren't very tight at all. Because of that, I'm just snugging them down hand tight using a loose 1/4 inch Torx driver bit. I tighten them in a star pattern like putting a wheel on a car, which might be overkill, but it doesn't hurt to ensure even pressure across the face. Primary and secondary seal installation. Now we move on to installing the first of the 2 critical liquid seals that protect the probe from coolant. When installing this primary seal, pop one side into its groove, then work your way around the diameter. Crucial tip here, always push radially back towards your starting point as you feed it in. You want to make sure you aren't creating tension or stretching the rubber band as you go. If you don't do this, you will end up with too much excess seal to push in at the very end. Once it's all the way around, give it one final push down along the entire perimeter to make sure it is perfectly seated. The second seal appears to just get pinched between the bottom cap of the probe housing and the main probe body. I found the easiest way to install this was by placing the seal directly inside the bottom recess of the outer housing first, and then sliding the main probe body down into it. Once the bottom cap is on and secured, reach into the center and push the middle of that secondary seal down firmly over the stylus mount so it clears the threads. indicator setup, calibration, and final results. With the seals locked down, all that's left to do is reinstall your stylus, put the assembly into the machine spindle, and use a dial indicator to dial out any mechanical runout. Then run a standard calibration cycle on your reference sphere to re-establish your exact probe offsets and guarantee your measurement accuracy. Our probe has been back in production for a while now. If you're careful, patient, and clean, you can save your shop a massive chunk of change and a lot of unnecessary machine downtime. Let me know in the comments if you've ever tackled a repair like this yourself. Do you encourage anyone to upload their repairs like this? Information for this kind of thing is minimal online, and it would be great for all of us to have more information. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.